afternoon, everyone. Let's see if this clicker works. Yes, it does. I grew up in New Zealand, which means that at one point in my life, I had a much more intelligent sounding, much more sophisticated accent than the American one I carry today. And when I was growing up there, I managed to fall in love with an American sport, which is baseball. In 1997, I moved to the US, and in 1998, I visited Yankee Stadium for the first time, and I was a fan of the New York Yankees. Now, this was a huge moment for me, but surprisingly, I only have one clear memory from that day. In the second inning, Yankees first baseman Tino Martinez walked up to the plate, and the stadium played Bubba O'Reilly by The Who. First time I'd ever heard that song. And paraphrasing the great Bob Marley, the music hit me without causing any pain. From that moment, and for many years afterwards, Bubba O'Reilly was my favorite song, Tino Martinez was my favorite athlete, and Yankee Stadium, well, it felt like home. You see, the amazing thing about music is that it can do extraordinary things to us. It changes the way we perceive the world. And even though it is intimately personal, music is still so incredibly social. That's why music is really one of the most powerful weapons that a brand can bring to the battle for consumer loyalty. Now, these two incredibly intelligent men have spent 20 plus years studying music psychology. And during that time, they've been able to quantify the incredible effects that music has for a brand. They found that brands with a strong musical identity are recalled 96% more often than brands without. And that consumers are much more likely to buy products that they can associate with music that they like. In physical stores, people actually stay 60% longer because of music, and that leads to about a 38% increase in overall sales. So not surprisingly, almost all brands that we've ever talked to have told us that music is important to them. However, 70% of them don't spend any money on music marketing. And when we ask them why, the same two questions come up over and over again. The first is they ask, what does my brand actually sound like? And the second is, what does consumer engagement through music actually look like? The thing is, we found that the answer to both of these questions is actually in the identity of the consumer as a music lover. So over the course of the last 2 years, Spotify has become obsessed with finding out more about that consumer. We started off by asking 750 people around the world what kind of media and what kind of personal interest they could not live without. Music scored 100. What this meant was that we could not find a single person who would tell us that they can live without music. Now, as we dug deeper into the psyche and the behavior of our consumers, we found 4 really exciting insights that I want to share with you guys today. The first learning is that consumers actually contextualize music within moments. Now, these moments could be moments throughout your life, like a graduation, a wedding, or the birth of a child. Or they can be moments throughout a day, like your morning commute, an early morning run, or an intimate dinner with friends. The second learning is that through these moments, there are 5 primary ways that users use music, consumers do. It's to motivate them, to amplify what they're feeling, to regulate their mood, to help them express, and to help them connect with one another, with expression and connection being by far the most important. These 5 uses across all moments of the day actually leads to incredible amount of engagement. On a platform like ours, for instance, we see 107 minutes per user per day. That's 107 minutes that a consumer is saying, come sing to me, to whichever artist they're listening to. Now, this usage happens throughout the day, and it peaks every week on Fridays around happy hour. Because we all know that a beer tastes just a little bit sweeter with Avicii thumping away in the background. Which brings me to our third learning, that the music we listen to completely changes depending on the activities that we're engaging in. This may sound very logical, but I'm going to show you a few examples and a few patterns that we found. The first is, if you look at the 600,000 study playlists that exist on Spotify, you'll find that the 5 most popular songs among all of them are all classical masterpieces, nothing else. This is pattern number one. The second example brings us to the Super Bowl halftime show that 100 million Americans watch every single year. Now this year, Beyoncé and Destiny's Child performed. And in the weeks following the performance, we saw Destiny's Child's greatest hits have a 500% increase in plays. And for Beyoncé herself, she saw a 300% bump in streams of her music. This is an exceptional amount of increase in streams. So if you suddenly started to listen to Destiny's Child again in February, I can be pretty sure that you watched the Super Bowl. The third example brings us to the backyard American barbecue, which we all wish looked like that, but almost always ends up looking like this. Now, the third pattern is really easy to spot. If we take a look at how frequent people edit barbecue playlists in the US. As you can see on a weekly basis, Saturday is by far the most popular day, and every single year, there's a huge spike on July 4th, which is our national holiday of overcooked hamburgers and undercooked hot dogs. All of these kinds of patterns can be found across pretty much any moment, any activity. When we take all of these patterns and data points together, we can actually craft an incredibly accurate picture of what a person's life looks like based on the music that they listen to. That brings us to our fourth learning. It turns out that the world's most active music listeners also happen to be the world's most active influencers in their communities. Spotify's active user base, about 40% of them sit in what we call the early adopter bucket. These are the folks that try products first, that use social media on a daily basis, and that are able to change the behavior of their friends and family. The way they do it, by the way, is by sharing incessantly on social networks. If you take a look at the major attributes and activities on a social network, you'll find that these active music listeners over-index against the general population by a significant amount, which means that it's no surprise that Sounds Like Branding found in 2010 that 50% of all social media activity actually revolves around music. Let's go back to that 70% of brands who don't really know how to work with music and marketing. With these four insights over the course of the last year, we've been developing and refining 3 really, really easy steps to help those brands and pretty much any brand develop an incredibly efficient and meaningful musical identity. I'm sharing these with you today. Step number 1, identify your audience and own a moment, an emotion, or an activity. We're using Reebok as an example here. They decided to own the workout because their audience are the folks who need a little bit of extra motivation to get fit. Step number 2, have an opinion about what great music sounds like within the context of your identity. For Reebok, they got world-famous athletes to curate incredible workout playlists under their name. And then step number 3, become a tastemaker and get people to come to you to find great music. Reebok accomplished this by building a utility called FitList that allows you and me to go and create awesome, unique workout playlists whenever we want by choosing the exercise we're about to do and the artist that we really, really like. I'm going to end on 2 more case studies, 2 more examples of brands who've done an exceptional job turning these 3 easy steps into incredible consumer engagement. And when we're talking about incredible consumer engagement, I'm talking about audio and display click-through rates that are far beyond market. I'm talking about brand awareness and brand recall that also do extremely well compared to most industry benchmarks. The first of these examples is Universal Pictures, a campaign for their movie Pitch Perfect. Now in this campaign, they asked users to enter in their own personal attributes, consumers. And after watching a movie trailer for the movie, the consumer got back a unique 40-song playlist created just for them, as well as a character match from the movie. Very, very easy campaign. It created unbelievable engagement. Over 17 minutes per user was spent on this campaign. And as of right now, 3,000 plus hours spent listening to the playlists that were generated. And very last is Bacardi, a brand inherently tied to music. They wanted to bring the party to their consumers. And naturally, we thought that a big green bus that was packed with amazing indie artists that had a Bacardi bar in it and speakers all over the place was the best way of doing this.
Yes, fake grass, super hot outside, and lots of nice people.
Why can't you?
Music moves people, man.
People like your own brother.
It is always better when there's
Why
an
can't
audience.
you?
I don't know, everybody seemed pretty excited to see us. It was a really fun feeling.
Why can't you?
I'm actually going to stop this video, it's quite long. Now, over the course of 6 months, Bacardi managed to engage with 190,000 fans in person by throwing 34 different parties and serving 32,000 cocktails. And by the way, they did this all while generating 350 million impressions for their brand online. I'm going to leave everyone here with a very simple question. What is your musical identity? Regardless of whether or not you're here representing a huge brand or a startup in Startup Alley, or if you're just an individual who loves music, the answer is worth finding. Thank you.